One of the biggest challenges that I see in agencies that I audit and that I work with is that they're not tracking the right metrics. They're not even tracking any metrics at all. So in the next 10 minutes, we're going to walk through this agency dashboard to show you exactly what you should be tracking and why. All right, welcome to the Lean Agency Dashboard training. This is going to be the one place where you're going to start tracking your KPIs. If you're currently not tracking them, you're going to start tracking them here. And if you are currently tracking KPIs, we want you to kind of move it into this format. This can be moved into ClickUp or Notion or Asana or whatever project management system that you're using. But we found that tracking things in Excel is actually much easier, or Google Sheets is much easier because some of the functionality that I'm going to show you here, and also being able to track things. So if you figure out a way to get this into one of those softwares that has the same functionality, let me know. For now, this is probably going to be the one time a week meeting where you're going to have all the major stakeholders in your business get together and review the business on a high level. I have an agenda that's broken out here that I'll briefly go through that we use in our own team. And the first thing that we're going to be discussing is weekly wins. So a business or personal win from everyone who is in the team. And this gets everyone in a really positive mindset. And it also allows you to see what people are doing outside of work sometimes and build that relationship. We talk about client and employee highlights. So any clients that maybe have a red flag or something went really well, or any employees that maybe a red flag or something went really well, we bring it to everybody's attention here. We talk about our targets, which is the section that's here. And the last thing we talk about is any PDCAs. And if you don't know what PDCAs are, PDCA is a plan, do, check, act cycle. And it's basically a cycle for improvement, but we have a little area here where we can start to track these. So getting into the targets, because this is the meat and bones of this. First, I want to call out that there is a note for each one of these KPIs, each one of these targets here, if you have a question about what it is, about what means what. So these call outs should be able to help you figure that out. The second thing that I want to talk about is that each of these are grouped into sales and marketing. We have some overall KPIs, and then we have some growth KPIs here as well. So we kind of segment them into these three areas. This overall area, if you have multiple service lines, you're going to need to copy growth and copy and paste this into a new service line here, and maybe color this something else. Maybe this is email, because each one of these is going to need their own KPIs. So this can get actually pretty large, but it goes very quickly in the meetings, typically less than 10 minutes for each service line. But this right now is just one service line. So that's number one. Number two, if you only have one service line like this has, you can combine these overall into that service line, meaning number of employees, number revenue per employee. You can move that to the service line if you want. It's all going to be dependent upon what's easiest for your business and what brings the most visibility for you that can impact some change. So again, if you have multiple service lines, just duplicate this out for new service lines and start tracking those things per service line. And if you have one, you can probably just put all that stuff under that main service line. A couple additional call outs that are important here. So there's these little things here that are really cool. And these open and close up here. They also open and close down here. And I'll show you why this is important. So for this one, this specific target that we're tracking is MER to target. So this would be for our growth team. Are we hitting the MER that we agreed to with every single client? So brand one, we have some sort of MER target. Are we at 100% of that? Are we at 80% of that? 70% of that? Are we at 250% of that on a weekly basis? And this is going to allow us to track on a weekly basis where we're at with our promises to our brands from a performance perspective. This is really the only performance KPI that we have here, is this first one for each service line. For growth, MER to target is a really good one. You might also have revenue and spend to target and sort of break those two out into two separate KPIs. For email, maybe it's going to be email revenue to target. Whatever that is, there needs to be some ultimate performance KPI that you can see on a weekly basis. Are we doing what we told our customers that we'd be doing? So this is important because we're able to break this down here and show on a brand basis how are we doing performance-wise. The second call out for these is this one up here. So these are important because now we get to understand for each of these KPIs, two things. Number one, what is the reason that we missed this KPI? So for instance, if we have new conversations and we're trying to get 10 and we had 6, what's the reason that we missed that, right? And it's going to get us to start thinking, what's the root cause and the real reason why we're not hitting these things? Obviously, if we miss a conversation KPI, there's a lead gen challenge there. There's a lead gen issue that we need to look into fix. Maybe it's short term, maybe it's long term. Whatever it is, we need to figure out why we missed it and then notate it down here so that we can create what's called a PDCA, which is just that plan, do, check, act cycle to fix this issue and fix this challenge, right? So this is going in dates. So we'll have this for each date. And for each new date, we're just going to copy and paste one of these. So for next week, we would just update this. It's pretty cool and simple there. Now, the second important thing that's really important to note about this is we're now bringing issues to the forefront. And when you're talking with your team, it's okay for things to go wrong, right? People are human. It's not okay for things to go wrong and people not try to fix things though, right? So we want to get in the habit of saying that failure is okay, but what are we doing to fix it, right? Because if you're saying failure is a bad thing, you're going to stifle your team from creating decisions without you or from growing, right? So that's a real mindset shift that we have to have when we're thinking about these things. Why are we missing them? Is being okay with failure and really getting to the root cause of why something failed and then figuring out what are the solutions that we can test to fix whatever that issue is. So that was targets. Again, you can break it out on a per brand basis if you want. Definitely for the performance target, I recommend this. For the other ones, it's not really as important. And then we also want to make sure that anything that we didn't hit our KPI, that our actual was lower than we wanted, that we have a reason and some sort of thing that we're working on. Now, you can track PDCAs or initiatives or projects or whatever you'd like to call them in your client software. So you can track this in Notion or ClickUp if you want separately. I did build in a little area here down on this tab called PDCAs. And this will allow us to start tracking PDCAs in one place as well. So for instance, our first plan, do, check, act cycle, whoopsie, here we go, is here. So this links to that. So I could say, okay, for new conversations, the reason we missed it is because someone took 2 days off, right? So our first PDCA then I can just type in here and I can link that here. So this is a new project that we now have some ownership over. So whoever wrote that's going to say, okay, I'm the owner. Maybe this is Kyle. We'll go through the PDCA cycles here, but essentially planning is the planning phase where you're taking a look at what's the current state of the project and then what's the target. And then we think about what are the possible solutions. And this is very high level. There's a whole separate training on PDCAs. Doing is, okay, now that we have some things that we think we can test to improve it, let's actually do those. Checking is after we've implemented our tests, seeing if they worked or they didn't. And then acting is after we saw if they worked or not, finalizing the project. And then complete is, did we make this a new standard? Because now things should always be done this way, right? I'm actually going to edit this to say, whoopsie, to say standard. Because that's more, there we go. But the point is, all these PDCAs here, you should be tracking separately to see what the status of the PDCA is and if we actually were able to fix something or not, right? So that's a really pretty decent overview, I believe. Pretty decent overview of this sheet and how you can apply it to your company to start having some impact, a large impact very quickly to see where you need to fix and then what are some ideas to fix them. So if you have any questions, please contact me. But I think you're going to find this sheet very valuable.